The wheels of time keep turning. Seasons change. The blistering heat of May and June creates a yearning for the rains. And then, every year, the monsoon arrives. Sometimes it is plentiful, sometimes scarce, but come it does every year. And so it did this year too.
त्या दिवशी पहिला पूर आला आणि शिशिट्या अशा टुम भरल्या, तळे टुम भरले. सकाळी 7 वाजता जाऊन पूर्ण लोक ते डोंगरा बघून असे उड्या मारत होते, तळेत नाचायला पवायला लागले, असे हे माझं पाणी म्हणून म्हणून.
मी जे शेततळ तयार केलं तर ते शेततळ भरलेलं बघून मला आनंद मायलने मी पहिल्यांदा उडी मारल्यावर बाकीची लेकरं उडी मारली.
अनुभव असा म्हणजे की पावसामध्ये पोरांनी लगेवर जाऊन शूटिंग केली, एवढं भारी दिसायला की वाटायला लागलं हे काम संपायला नाही पाहिजे, पूर्ण डोंगर शिवारच निघायला पाहिजे होता.
In thousands of Maharashtrian villages, this year it is as if a miracle occurred. This year, the rainwater did not leave villages. It made its home there. This has been achieved by a people's movement. The fruit of the sweat and toil of those who took on the mission of making their villages water abundant by taking part in the Satyamev Jayate Water Cup contest. Both government and prominent leaders of industry generously supported this people's initiative. The contest started in the year 2016 with just 3 talukas in Maharashtra. Expanded in 2017 to 30 talukas and grew 25 times this year, 2018, to reach 75 talukas across Maharashtra. More than 4,000 villages participated. Over a 2-month period, more than 20,000 villagers were trained in the science of watershed management. These villagers then returned to their villages to sow the seeds of a water revolution. The Water Cup was scheduled to begin on the 8th of April. But from the night of April 7th itself, lakhs of water warriors, fully armed to take on the drought, kept vigil for the battle to begin. At the stroke of midnight, their army launched a determined attack to vanquish drought. A wild dream to free oneself in just 45 days from the shackles of drought with one's own might. People joined hands, putting aside social divisions and old rivalries. With every passing day, the army of water warriors grew. In these 45 days, the rising and setting sun saw many a miracle unfold. Somewhere it was woman power, elsewhere the determination of youth, or even an army of children.
मी सर्व विद्यार्थ्यांना तयार केलं व आमची एक घट्ट तुफान सेना तयार करायची. माझी 150 मुलांची टीम आहे.
Even seniors, uncaring of their aches and pains, worked obsessively towards a brighter future for coming generations.
आम्हाला एक तकलीफ होती, संध्याकाळी अंग दुखते, पैसा नसतो इंजेक्शनला, तर 2 लाख सुटल्यानंतर दुसऱ्याचा रोजगार करायचा, तिथून 4 रुपये आणायचे आणि मग इंजेक्शन करायचं. पण काम नाही सोडलं, जशी सुट्टी घेतलीच नाही.
अन्न गुडगुडे, नाल गुडगुडे, दुष्काळ.
By day, the sun was witness to people's madness. And when by night, the baton was handed over to the moon, it saw thousands doing shramdan without a moment's rest. Those 45 days became a festival of labor, full of song, dance, and celebration. By the time the competition came to a close, this grand obsession had transformed the face of entire landscapes. Driven by this collective madness, villagers who had once struggled for a single tanker of water created with their own hands structures that could harvest more than 222 billion liters of water. If filled in tankers of 10,000 litre capacity, this quantity of water would fill more than 22 million tankers. And if these tankers were lined up, they would circumnavigate the earth more than 3 times. It is this human spirit, this determination, that has kept the rains captive in village after village this year. People are celebrating their newfound affinity with water. Nature and mankind are dancing with joy as they become one.
Deshpande Foundation India was established by Dr. Jayashree and Dr. Deshpande in 2007 in Hubli, North Karnataka. At Deshpande Foundation, we focus on the holistic transformation of rural and semi-urban communities. We aim to create an ecosystem that nurtures entrepreneurial mindset to impact grassroots problems through innovation, collaboration, and sustainability. Our programs are divided into 4 broad verticals: micro-entrepreneurship, agriculture, skilling, and startups. Micro-entrepreneurship programs support aspiring and scaling rural entrepreneurs, especially women and artisans. Our agriculture-based programs focus on impacting the farming community through farm ponds, farmer-producer organizations, and Better Cotton Initiative. Skilling programs work with youth to promote job-oriented skills for self-employment or joining the formal sector employment. The education programs focus on school-going students to improve their cognitive and life skills. Deshpande Startups focus on nurturing budding entrepreneurs to build solutions for rural and semi-urban India. We welcome you to join us in this journey of spreading empowered smiles across India.
Ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening. I am Sunil Chakrapani, the host for this evening. I head the partnerships at the Deshpande Foundation. This evening is very special. An evening which we all would cherish. Surely it would run down your memory lane for a very long time to come. The luminaries present today have each etched and scripted and carved a niche in their respective domains. Be it business, be it cinema, be it social or personal lives, they have won millions of hearts all around the globe. I'm personally very grateful to Aamir and Kiran, who have graciously taken out their time and been with us this evening. वो घर अच्छा लगा, वो गली अच्छी लगी, वो महफिल में आए तो ये महफिल अच्छा लगा. I'm personally very humbled and delighted and wish to extend a warm welcome to all our distinguished guests who have joined us on Zoom and also those who have joined us live on the YouTube. Today's panelists need no introduction, but nevertheless, I would like to give a brief intro. Aamir's expansive range of characterizations remains unparalleled amongst his contemporaries. Because of his diversity and his formidable ability to portray different characters, he is regarded as one of the finest actors in all of Indian cinema. His beloved wife, Kiran Rao, an astute producer, director and a scriptwriter, has been a constant source of inspiration and strength and been a part of his success journey. Kiran personally has directed Dhobi Ghat. She has sung the Marathi song Tufan Alai, the anthem for the Water Cup of Satyameva Jayate. She has produced several movies like Talash, Lagan, Pepe Life, and so on. Satyajit Bhatkal, the man who directed the historic series 25 successful episodes of Satyameva Jayate, the CEO of Pani Foundation. We are very grateful to all the three who could make this time and be with us this evening. The trio strongly believe in the transformative power of collective action and aim to build a people's movement that bring village community together through Shramadhan and eradicate their own water crisis. They very strongly believe that if we have created this problem, there's a way to solve it too, and we are responsible for it. Our another panelist, Dr. Gururaj Deshpande, the founder of Deshpande Foundation, fondly known as Desh, a well-known serial entrepreneur and a man who co-chaired the National Advisory Council for Innovation and Entrepreneurship to the then American President Barack Obama. He's been on the board of MIT for over 20 plus years. A social entrepreneur at heart who dedicates his 95% of the time in philanthropic work. We are very happy to kickstart our discussion on building a people's movement for rural transformation. I now have the privilege of handing over the stage to Desh from here on. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sunil. I think Satyajit, Aamir, and Kiran, welcome. We have thousands of people. Unfortunately, we can't hear their applause or their presence, but I do want to welcome, Sudha and Narayan Murthy, and we have a lot of CEOs of companies, heads of CSRs, NGOs, experts, and thousands of young men and women. I know they all like rural transformation, but quite a few of them are here because of their admiration for you. So I have a very simple agenda for the evening. By the time we finish our conversation, I want them to love rural transformation as much as they love all you guys. And for the rural transformation to happen, for any transformation to happen, I see them as 3 steps. Number one, any community, if you want to transform, people within the community have to get excited, inspired. If they do choose to do something and see a new vision for themselves, then we have to nurture that vision. We have to provide them skills and training and tools and technology and access to capital and everything else. And finally, if we are lucky enough to make the transformation, then we have to sustain it. So I really want to sort of take those 3 elements and see if we can do it, because you've done a lot of it in Pani 1.0 and you're doing a lot more of it in Pani 2.0. So Kiran, we can maybe get started with you. How do you, what is the recipe? How do you inspire millions of people as opposed to what most of the people can do, where they can touch a few souls?
I think the challenge in Pani for us was first to understand the problem of water and figure out how we fit into that puzzle as communicators. And the recipe was to bring the knowledge to people, see whether they would be interested to participate, and then help them with knowledge and enthusiasm and giving them the tools that they needed to do what they had to do to be able to overcome their own problem. Because actually we ourselves are filmmakers and we're not not even actually from the world of social work or anything else. So we did what we knew how to do best, which was understand the problem and then communicate to people, and hope that they would want to solve the problem themselves. So to build that excitement, we used a bunch of tools, which Aamir and Satya will probably, they decided on the tool of this competition to energize and to sort of catalyze the work. And I think the recipe worked, because people, we realized, were ready to take change into their own hands, were ready to solve the problem given the right tools of education and with technical support. And I think that's what worked.
Aamir, you were already doing this with Satyamev. Why Pani?
Well, actually, Desh, first, let me just say hi to everyone. And it's really wonderful to be talking to all of you. And when Satya and I finished, we completed 3 seasons of Satyamev Jayate, and they were very successful. Each episode and each social topic we picked, we realized had a very strong impact on ground. And then Satya and I began talking about what to do next. And we actually had the option of going in for a season 4. And there were topics that we discussed earlier and as options for season 4. But then both of us felt, and actually both of us felt this kind of separately. He was thinking about it separately, and so was I, as it turned out, that both of us felt that maybe we should take one topic, stay with it, and instead of doing a show which is on instead of using mass communication, we should also work on ground, as opposed to restrict it to communication which is only on mass communication, but actually reach the grassroots and see if that can actually bring about, maybe we can contribute much more if we do that, is a question that we had asked ourselves, and we felt we should experiment with that and attempt that. And which is why when we both discussed about this, instinctively both of us came up with water as the issue and Maharashtra as the geographical location, because both of us are from Maharashtra, and water in rural Maharashtra has been an issue over decades. And so we started that, and the idea behind it, as Kiran was saying earlier, maybe I'll try and put it slightly differently, is that we were not interested in working in one village and trying to solve the problem of one village. We were trying to understand if it can be done at scale, and if at all it's possible to be done at scale, how, and what has been the problem so far. And so a lot of time that Satya spent was actually in understanding the issue and how it plays out in Maharashtra, as far as we are concerned. And having understood that, which took about a year almost, I think we decided that the best way to approach this would be to try and create a people's movement. Because this problem, Maharashtra is bigger than Germany. It's like you're dealing with a country in Europe. So no one organization or NGO, or for that matter, even the government, perhaps, would find it difficult to solve a problem, or at scale. However, if each person involved in this does their own bit, then that scale, so if you want to achieve it, if you can, it's impossible to go to 86,000 villages and solve a problem. But if 86,000 villages decide to solve their own problem, then you can probably think of scale. And from that idea, we realized that unless it's a people's movement, unless it belongs to the people and it is a people's movement, you will not be able to achieve the kind of scale that we had wanted to achieve. And so we set out with that in mind, that this has to be a movement which is our job actually is as communicators, as Kiran was saying earlier. This is where our expertise lies, in communication, in connecting with hearts, in connecting with people, in telling stories, in motivating people, inspiring people. And so we used our skills in that, in trying to connect with people. We believe that this aspect of communicating with people is a very important aspect in bringing about change. And this is what we were experimenting with. So the first year, Desh, was really an experiment. We didn't know whether what we are attempting and what we are thinking and what we're feeling will actually play out the way we had planned. And really the idea was to, create a people's movement, yes, but what is it that we are bringing to the movement? And that is what we were bringing is the understanding of the scientific understanding of the problem, creating a set of trainers, creating a syllabus and teaching it in a manner which is very easy for them to absorb through games, through experiential learning. Nothing is through lectures. And that was a very important part of our communication, the training, the 4-day training that we were conducting, with the hope that 5 people from each village which come, who are taking part in the competition. So competition was created to create an enthusiasm of, of trying to pit yourself against somebody. And like I used to always say to all the villagers, that this is the only competition in which nobody loses. Because even if you don't stand first or second or third, you still have solved your water problem or have moved ahead in solving your water problem. And so everybody is a winner at the end of the day. But the competition is just to bring in enthusiasm into people. That was kind of a way to attract people towards this. But the essence of it was the communication with them. And we don't provide, Pani Foundation doesn't provide any money. It doesn't provide any machines. It doesn't provide it. We genuinely believe that the village has the strength in itself to solve its own problem. And so if you provide knowledge and emotional support, the rest is possible for a village to do on its own. And our whole theory was standing on that. Is it possible? Is it possible? So the first year we were waiting to see if, when we announce this competition, will a village want to take part? Will it even be interested to take part? Why should they take part in a pan load competition or a watershed management competition? If they do decide to take part, will they be enthusiastic enough to come to us for training? Is our training good enough? Have we created a module which is actually connects with people? Do they understand what we've taught them? After this training, which is not only technical but also social, when they go back to their village, it's 5 of them. They have to lead a whole village. Will they be able to? Will the village listen to them? Will the village come together? Will it actually happen? And if they do, even if that happens at the end of 45 days, when they've done all the work, when it rains, the science that we've understood that it works, will it actually work? Will it actually happen? Is our training good enough? And it's hard work, 45 days. Shramdan was one of our most important things in that. So in the first year, Desh, when we did this as an experiment, and it was important to do that experiment at some scale, because we could have started with one village. The same experiment could have been done with one village. But we knew what we were attempting was a people's movement. So the experiment also had to be, will it work as a people's movement? Will we be able to inspire and enthuse people to such an extent that they stand up and, they want to become part of the flow, join in. And so it had to be done at a certain scale, so we chose 3 talukas in different parts of Maharashtra, Western Maharashtra, Marathwada and Vidarbha. And in each taluka, there were roughly 100 villages or so. And in the first year, we had about 116 villages that took part. And a good 44 of them did very good, unbelievable work. Now, even if one village had done that, we would have known that our experiment is possible, has succeeded. That just by knowledge and encouragement, even if one village does it on its own, with using its own intelligence, its own hard work, its own ability to raise funds, its own ability to get machines, it is entirely their problem, That experiment in the first year succeeded in a very big way and was most encouraging. And we realized that actually the strength lies with the people. And in fact, it is a people's movement that we need to create. In this, we got a lot of support, of course, from our funders, and we got a lot of support from the government of Maharashtra, which was the entire administration was very helpful. The government, when we started, was very helpful, and right up till this day, that has been the case. So it was truly a case of a people's movement starting with us as communicators, and it was not that we were the givers and the villagers were the takers. It was not as if we were giving them something and they were taking something. That's not how we look at it. We are equal partners in this, and we have something to contribute to this, and so do other people. And that is how a people's movement is formed, where each one contributes what they can and wants to, and does it with pride and joy. And this experience, Desh, over the last 4 years has just been building and building and building until the last competition that we had. We reached a massive scale of 4,100 villages that took part, and the amount of work that was achieved was amazing. And then we took a step back in a sense, by the normal view of people, by having scaled up so much, we went a step back, if you look at it from a particular way, but for us, it's a step forward. And that is that instead of focusing just on water, we have decided that we want to focus on the whole 360 of rural and agricultural life. So it's not just water, but it's soil health, it's grasslands, reforestation, crop planning. So so right from the time your soil health, your ecology has to come back. So it's not just economical, it's also the ecology. So it's ecology with coming together with the right economics and creating an environment where there can be prosperous and gentle and a natural growth, as opposed to exponential growth which goes all over the place. And do it slowly. And then the sustainability part, which you were saying earlier, is such an important thing. Now, the best way I can explain this is that if you ask me why is there a road dug outside my house gate, I don't know. There's either BMC has dug something for putting some wires in, I suppose. I don't even bother to ask. I don't ask them why are you doing it? What is the purpose? How long will it take? What will it cost? What is the quality of work you're about to do? How many days are you going to be doing this in? I don't ask all this. It's just a headache for me because it's not my job. It's the municipality's job, and it's just an inconvenience for me, is how I see it. But no, that is my road. That is public. It's actually mine, but I don't realize it. Yeah. But when at my same person at my house, when I built a cupboard, I asked 1,000 questions to the carpenter. What material are you going to use? How many days will you take? What will it cost? Why? How? If you take more than so many days, then I'm going to fine you, etc., etc. I want to know the material you're using, and I want to inspect the work as it's happening, because I feel it's my cupboard. Yeah. But we are going one step further in Pani Foundation.
It's a community.
We are teaching villagers how to make the cupboard.
Yeah.
So I have made the cupboard. I know how to fix it. I know how to look after it. I know the benefits of it. I know where the weaknesses lie. I know what I need to do next month to fix the door handle or whatever. And I look after it with pride because I've made it.
Yeah.
So our whole theory of this, our whole thinking in Pani Foundation, that it is anything that has to be handled through a people's movement, down up, grassroots up. And it has to be allowed to grow organically and with enthusiasm and joy. And with that, the rest of it flows. So that's the philosophy really that we believe in and follow.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's very impressive how in 4 years you've done such a massive scale. So Satyajit, you've done 4,000 villages now. Some are more successful than others. And I see a common theme in people's movement where it's a cultural change and somebody has to lead it. And I see it in Aamir's movies, whether it's Lagan or Dangal or, somebody has to stand up and say, hey, it doesn't have to be like this. It can be something different. Is it the same thing? I mean, does the success of this movement in any particular village depend on the initial people that you seed there?
Yeah, that's a very, very interesting question. So what happens is that when we start with a village, the village has a certain established leadership. Sometimes that leadership is interested in this work. Sometimes that leadership is not interested in this work. And one of the strengths of this method is that it casts our net for leadership far and wide. So it gives an opportunity for new leaders also to be formed. So we've gone into villages where the existing leadership has either been indifferent or mildly hostile. But, a woman who's completely unlettered in Yavatmal, she led from the front by beginning to break the liquor vats, because that village was dependent on brewing illicit liquor. And this completely unlettered woman transformed her village. So yes, it's very, very important what the quality of that leadership is. Ultimately, this, I would say, apolitical grassroots leadership formation is a huge asset for any village. And I think that the process of the Water Cup has enabled a lot of this kind of leadership to come up and thrive.
No, that's very important, because what I find is that most of the people always start with the existing leaders. But my thinking is, if the leaders could do it, they would have done it. So it's going to take somebody else. So it's almost like, it almost has to be somebody new who is somewhat naive about the whole thing and believes that it can be done, right? I mean, it's just like your Lagan and Dangal and everything else, where somebody says, I think it can be different.
So one of the strengths of this method is that it works by self-selection. So we don't select the leader. The leader gets selected by an organic process where people realize that this person is leading from the front. So it's really not so much as putting your hand up or getting elected or selected. It's really becoming a leader by sacrifice.
Yeah.
Because you do the most, you become the leader. You're not the leader because anybody appointed you or elected you, but you are acknowledged as that by your deeds, not by your words. So it's a very beautiful process. And one very interesting thing we do is that we try and persuade the village to send at least out of every 5 trainees, a minimum of 2 should be women, if not more. And that's worked quite well for us and for the village, because we found that these are women who for the first time are going and staying for 4 days at a training center at a space which is neither their Mecca nor is it their Sasral. So it's a new experience. They don't sleep at night. They're so excited by that experience. And they have, I would say, maybe 70 or 75% of the leadership in the villages has been by women. So it's a brand new leadership which this movement has thrown up.
Yeah.
And the other, actually, I want to add here, the other unusual leaders have been the outliers, the people who were actually the sole warriors who took on the charge when a village was not very interested in doing the work. There would be the odd person or people who would decide that they wanted to do it despite not having, the rest of the village with them. And literally with the dint of their own labor, set an example that drew the entire village to them. And we've been to such villages where literally 1 or 2 people in front of a village that's indifferent have worked for so long that they've almost shamed their village into participation and into, taking charge of their problem. So we found very unlikely heroes and leaders, and often they've been very young children. There have been, of course, as Satya said, women,
young girls.
Yeah, incredible young leaders.
But I wanted to add one thing there. You were saying that the leaders that have been around for so long have not managed to change things, and so maybe we need new leaders. I'm not hard and fast about that rule, because I feel that even the leaders that have been, a lot of them have been trying, some of them have been stumbling, some of them have been partly successful. I feel that there is good and bad in all of us, including me, including Kiran and all of us. It is what you tap into, what you bring out in a person. We have dealt with a lot of people who've been part of politics for years, and they've actually responded very well. A lot of them have, come forward on their own and have done things. So I feel it is creating the right environment where you want to, your heart cries out for wanting to do something. Yeah. And when that happens, that, you may be an old leader or a new leader, all of that starts transforming,
It's in fact, actually, as Aamir was saying earlier about the training program, I think that what the training program did was sort of change people's perspective in a sense. To tell people that actually Satya should tell you a little bit about the training, because we feel that the training is so crucial in setting setting the ground for people to join the movement. Satya, why don't you talk a little bit about the training?
I'm afraid I'm going to derail Desh's flow because the training is a huge topic. So,
guys, I'll tell one story, and I think that will give an example.
Yeah.
One of the competitions, I think it was not last year, the year before that. The year before that. One gentleman joined the training volunteered to be part of the training as from his village. And actually, he was a person who had a business of bore wells. And in his head, he thought that, when I come to the training, I'll meet a lot of prospective business people who will want me to, they've come because they all have water crisis. So I'll go and sell my water bore well, business, and I'll get a lot of new clients in this process by joining this Pani Foundation bandwagon. So from his point of view, he had done a very tactically, sharp move by becoming a trainee. And then he was there for 4 days of the training. And at the end of the training, he was such a transformed person that he went back home and said, listen, this whole business that I'm doing is actually is partly responsible for this problem of this bore wells. And I should not be doing this. And instead, we should be working towards raising the water levels. You won't believe it, Desh, he stopped his business. He stopped his business and decided that this is a business he doesn't want to be in anymore. Now, that's the power of the training 4-day course. I mean, we didn't know, we had no idea what his real purpose of coming was and what it transformed into. He was the one who told us about it. So training, in a sense, has been something that really is transformative for people. And I feel that Lancy has a big role to play in that, one of our team members who designed the whole thing.
Yeah. Just like you said, you're fantastic in communicators. My career has been all entrepreneurship. So I look at everything through entrepreneurship, and what I find is that there are 3 types of people in this world. Some people are oblivious to everything, leave them alone. Some people see a problem and complain. Some people see a problem and get all excited about it. And the only difference between a vibrant community and an impoverished community is a mix of those people. So if you come to, let's say, MIT, every kid at MIT is chopping the best to do something. In fact, they can't find good enough problems to solve. But the end result is there's no problem in MIT that will hang around too long because somebody is going to solve it, right? In impoverished communities, problems become chronic, they get deadlocked, they become very hard to solve. People do try to solve them and they cannot solve it. And then they become cynical, they become complainers. So the dominant culture of impoverished communities is all about complainers. And what you're really doing is converting these complainers into problem solvers. And once you get a taste of actually solving a problem, you'll never go back and become a complainer. Why would you, right? In fact, in US, about 20% of the people are in that mode because they're all impoverished communities. So we run a program here called E for All, Entrepreneurship for All. It's the same thing. You go to a community, there's nothing but complaining, and then you slowly opt in, just like what you're saying. It's not a selection process. People come in, right? And then you start with 5 and then 10 and 15 and 20 and 30. And slowly, over a course of time, that becomes the dominant culture. So it's really converting complainers into problem solvers, I guess, is what we're all trying to do. And we have to get better and better and better at it. So Kiran, you're a technology buff. Are you using a lot of technology?
Well, a fair amount, I would say, yes.
So I'm pretty excited about, I think you're all familiar with Shubho Biswas, who visited Pani Foundation. So he lives in Silicon Valley. He joined us as the Global Chief Technology Officer. So let me just give you a little bit of why I'm so excited, because there's always been a lot of technology and it's benefited people who have disposable income, people who can afford things. It's always showed the promise that it can help everybody. It has never done it so far. But slowly, I think it's getting to the point where it's powerful enough that it can be useful. So, there are many satellites that go around the world collecting data. There's one in particular that clicks the photographs every 5 days going around India. And so every 5 days, and it's been doing it for 10 years, right? So it's about 60 pictures a year. So 10 years is 600 pictures. So given a piece of land, either a farm, a village, a region, or whatever, you can take those 600 photographs and you can play a movie, right? So you get actually a full picture of where exactly the water fell, the rainfall, what people grew, everything else, right? So it's an amazing thing. And then on top of that, you can add all the geological survey data, aqueducts, all those kinds of things. So when you go and look at a bare land and suddenly you look at this, you can imagine what it can be. And so we are setting up a rural transformation technology center in Hubli. We should be all up and running in about 6 months. The reason why we're setting that up is because we are just launching this 100,000 farm pond program, which is an 800 crore program. And very, very fortunate to have State Bank of India, HDFC, and NABARD partner in that program. So we're building the center for that part of it. But in 6 months, when it's fully functional, we can work with all of you to actually show what the possibility of that is.
It's so wonderful.
And, so Kiran, we'll keep you posted on that one.
Yeah,
and see if there's a way we can do things together. And
I have to share with you, Desh, that I'm someone who technology doesn't agree with at all. So I cannot put on a television set
God.
without something going wrong and it not working, and there is a term
But he will doggedly do it. Like he will not let you do it for him. And just give me the laptop or give me the phone. No. You tell me, I'll do it.
So the latest.
Aamir, it was not an accident. That's why I didn't tell you. I told Kiran. I know how to pick and choose whom to partner with. So Aamir, my love for technology actually got started because of the vision of your great grandfather, Abul Kalam Azad, who actually set up all the IITs, right? So I and my wife Jayashree, we both went to IIT Madras. I left IIT Madras. That was almost 5 decades ago. But my love for technology has never gone down, right? I mean, still love the stuff. And but so he actually had the vision, and he saw 6-7 decades ahead of what he was trying to do. So it looks like you have a little bit of that DNA, because you can see it in your movies and everything else. So I know you're going from Pani 1.0 to 2.0. Imagine for a minute what 5.0 would look like. What do you think Pani 5.0 would be?
Ouch.
Wow, what a question.
I think, if I may interrupt, I think Pani 5.0 would not have Pani Foundation. It would have been completely taken over by the village communities.
I was going to just say that.
That was one of the things we started with.
If we are of any use, then by the time we reach Pani, whatever 0.3, which is the last level for me, we won't be needed anymore. We will become irrelevant, and that's what our plan was, to become irrelevant as soon as possible.
Yeah. So, I think what happens is that, I've seen this thing happen in the entrepreneurship. Like when we were starting companies in 80s, there used to be, maybe in Boston, 5 or 6 entrepreneurs, right? But now you can't shake a stick without running into an entrepreneur. But so your role changes from actually being the driver, doing things, to actually being a little bit more in reducing friction for people who want to do things, right? Because there's always more and more to do things. I don't know if we'll ever reach a point where the world doesn't have any more problems. The world will always have problems. So I think constantly we have to be there to reduce that friction for them in whatever way we can. But
Pani 5.0, Desh, if you ask me, we've started with 2.0, which was the idea of Samruddhi, Samruddha Gaon.
Prosperous village.
And the program actually starts with asking the trainees to think of what do you think would be your ideal village? What in your mind is an ideal village? Sorry?
Dream
the village of your dreams.
What is the village of your dreams?
And so they sit down to kind of like, everybody contributes to that, we would like this, that, and the other in the dream village. If Samruddha Gaon is achieved, according to me, Pani 5.0 is a Samruddha Gaon. What do you guys say?
Yeah, so the idea behind it is that when each person or each village decides its dream for itself, then Samruddha Gaon is that journey from where you are right now to achieving your dream.
No, and I think Pani 5.0 would be a Samruddha Gaon. To my mind, achieve Samruddhi, that would be really where we would want to be, where...
So where, I think we can partner is we sort of, you can go top down, you can inspire a lot of people and say, hey, do something, and they do amazing things. What we try to do is a little bit more bottoms up. I think people live in a certain way and they need to change, right? But that change is very difficult for these people because any change is risky. People who have affordable income, every time somebody says do something new, which is innovation, right? I mean, new product, new whatever, immediately you Google and you buy it and you try it out. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, you throw it away and it's okay for you. But these people don't have that luxury because they have so little resources, right? So when you suggest that they or when they have to do something a little differently, it has to be a lot more baked. So let's say in the agriculture, we have 240 people helping 500 each. So we touch about 120,000 farmers. So we use that as our experimental ground, whether growing better cotton or better, more horticulture, drip irrigation, whatever, better use of water. So it's almost like we go to these guys and say, let's just pick 30 farmers, 40 farmers, run an experiment, run it for a couple of years, make absolutely sure that it runs, that they do make more money with it and everything else. And so I think what we would be good in sort of feeding, and it takes a long time to come out with something that really works. And we can feed those things into, so where we can partner is that we're probably good in technology. I think the places where we work, we can bring all those guys to the villages that have been transferred by Pani, and they can be inspired and they can see the possibility of what can happen when everybody works together. Mm-hmm. But also, we can probably bring in some of the interventions, whether it's farmer producer organization, better way to do food processing, just simple grading and packing will get them better margins. Food processing is a badly needed thing. So when we develop these things because we have a 100,000 square foot incubator, mm-hmm. and we have a lot of entrepreneurs trying to sort of come up with these solutions for these people. Mm-hmm. So I think we can do a lot of fun stuff together.
Sure.
Mm-hmm. That would be wonderful. Yeah.
So I know there's a lot of people online and they all have lots of questions. Uh-huh. And so Aamir, yeah. Everybody is excited about the Lal Singh Chadda. What can you tell us?
Well, Lal Singh Chadda, I think by now most people know it's an adaptation of Forrest Gump, which was made in the US, I think in the 90s at some point. It's one of my favorite films. And
Forrest Gump? I've seen it 5 times. So.
Yes. So Atul Kulkarni, who's a common friend of Satya, me, Kiran, all of us, he actually wrote an adaptation of it. And then it took us about 7-8 years to get the rights. And finally, here we are trying to complete the film in the lockdown. Forrest Gump, I don't know if you remember, it begins with a feather.
Yeah.
And the feather comes floating down in the sky, and then it goes over people's shoulders, it drives over a car. The wind kind of pushes it here and there. And Advait, who's the director of the film, he and I often joke that when we took on this film, we've actually made our lives have become like a feather.
Yeah, we are
different winds are pushing us in different directions, and we are just kind of flowing with it, and we're going to just figure out where we land up by the end of it. Because while the rest of the world was dealing with Corona, we were dealing with Corona and Kareena, who was the heroine of the film, who became pregnant. Yeah. That was another complication. So you're like, one more gust of wind has pushed us in another direction. And so we'll see where it lands. But so far things are going well. And now, for now, things seem to be in control. And hopefully by the end of the year, we should see the film,
So it'll be December 21, you think?
Yes, Christmas, hopefully.
Okay. Well, very much look forward to it. So Kiran, a question for you. One of the young ladies says, this Aamir, when he does a movie, he lives that character. He's totally into it.
Yeah.
So what is he like to be with when he's doing these intense movies?
Well, yeah, it's interesting because like I often tell him, I don't know what he actually looks like, because often, he has no Aamir look. He's always one character or the other. And when he's in the role, it's kind of, it's fascinating because you can be talking to him and he would be nodding, but he would not have heard a word because he's in his world in his own head. So we've learned to live with that. And of course, I'm a filmmaker myself, and I know how important it is for him to be part of, immerse himself in that role. But I guess it's because I live with him only when he's not making the films. It's easy enough. If moment when he's not, and then that's when we have him. So
yeah.
We've gotten used to it. Yeah.
But I'm working on myself, Desh. I promise you, I'm working on myself. There has been
Yeah.
some improvement.
Oh yeah, there has been, yeah.
Oh, I mean, when you get off the camera, you want to be Aamir?
Yeah.
No, but it's interesting you ask this question. I find that I find that my characters do somehow affect me a little bit without me being aware of it. Something does happen to me. I don't know quite
But
what.
also because you're drawn to those characters because of a reason. No? The reason you want to do the film is because there's something about that character that appeals to you. And what that
No,
character
it's probably only because of that you can feel that intensity in the movies, right? I mean, that it's not like you're acting; you're almost like living it. I mean, you know, it's amazing that you can put on weight, you can lose weight.
He does live it. I mean, for Three Idiots, he lived on the IIM campus. Like he lived on campus in one of those.
I wanted to be with the students, and I wanted to be everywhere.
In Dhobi Ghat, he lived in the house that we were shooting in.
Yeah.
Wherever possible, he kind of, in fact, in Lal Singh Chadda, he very much wanted to live in the house that Lal Singh has, but production and everybody begged him not to. So he didn't. But yeah, he lives.
Yeah.
That's true.
So Satyajit, how do you manage to get that time from both of them?
So the interesting thing is I told Aamir, how much time do you have? So he said, I have as much time as you need. So I think that's a very fair way of describing it. So this is a very unique kind of partnership with both Kiran and Aamir, where they are always there when you need them, and we are always respectful of their time. So obviously you don't expect him to be there every day out in the village, but
and you don't want them. Also, you don't want them, right, Satyajit?
Let me just share this. For 4 years in a row, we did a show called Tufan Alaya on television during our competition period, in which both Kiran and Aamir traveled through hundreds of far-flung villages in Maharashtra. In fact, there are very few people in the world who would have seen as much of rural Maharashtra as they would have. So they've really been very generous with their time and completely committed to, I think they've enjoyed it. Basically, I think the main reason is they've enjoyed the whole process.
No, but it's very...
It was the highlight of...
I used to look forward to that entire 45 days when we would be traveling.
It's so inspiring to be out in the villages. And so much to learn, and you feel so humbled. It's incredible. We really...
I'm just going to take the opportunity, Desh, to kind of cycle back to the first question you asked about the recipe, because it connects with what Kiran and Aamir are talking about. What is the recipe for this? I think the heart of the recipe is really joy. That without joy, it's impossible for either us to work or for the village to work. And I think that the joy has been something which has united people, and something in that recipe brings in joy and camaraderie. So we are living in an era of hyper connectedness technologically and hyper disconnectedness emotionally. So I think this entire design of the competition is something which, while utilizing the power of connected technology, brings human beings together in a very beautiful and joyful way. So it's really a coalition of the good, or the coalition of goodness. So it's that joy which has, I think kept bringing Kiran and Aamir back through their schedules, kept getting the villages to do work completely, in an inspired or Jununi way. So that's the heart of the recipe.
So in case you haven't noticed, Desh, I have a film coming out every 3-4 years. I don't have 3-4 films coming out in 1 year. I have one film coming out in 3-4 years. So I have,
So all because of Pani Foundation.
No, not all because of Pani Foundation. I have plenty of time.
But I do see how grounded you are, and a lot of that credit goes to the Pani Foundation, I think.
No, I think you should go to my mother. Yeah, she's brought me up really well. Yeah. I think whatever I am today, Desh, I tell you, anything good that you see in me, whatever you see in me which you find is good, is a result of the big influence my mother has been on me. And she's been someone who's been a big force in my life, and continues to be so.
I think success can mess you up very easily, and to be grounded, I think unless you're connected with the real people and they're, I think the beauty of when you do all these tufan and everything else and see how other people live, any problem that you have looks so minuscule, right? Otherwise, you can get so self-absorbed that one little mole here on a skin is enough to like set you off. So.
Yeah, also whenever in fact I go to whenever you travel together, Kay, I always remark this, that it's just a stroke of luck or whatever you want to call it, that I was born in Mumbai in a privileged environment, in a family which could afford an education for me and gave me a sheltered childhood. If I was born in a village where I didn't have resources, or I would have been sitting there in that village. And every time I go to the village, I remark on that there is actually no difference between that gentleman sitting there outside the temple and me. There is absolutely no difference. It's just a matter of chance that he was born here and I was born somewhere else. So our rights are the same, our responsibilities are also the same, and our emotions are the same, our dreams and our fears are the same. I don't see it as another. It is the way, ideally, if we can look at each other as one, should be no difference between that person and me.
Yeah. So, we have thousands of people watching this on YouTube and so on. And we need all of them, because India is a large country with over 600,000 villages, right? So rural transformation is not what one organization or one person can do. So leave the people with some tips in terms of what can they do? How can they participate? Now, some people can give money, some people can give time, they can give 1 hour a week, a month, a year, whatever they can give. What are the different ways that you think everybody can participate in this rural transformation?
Well, we've actually, we have a program at Pani. I know, of course, I'm speaking specifically for Pani, but we were very interested, in fact, in creating a space for urban people from urban environments to be able to come to the villages and work shoulder to shoulder with villagers. And to do that, we started a program called Satya, Apna, what are they called? Jal Mitra. So the Jal Mitra program actually allowed people to sign up and come and work in the villages, sometimes through the water cup, but on a day that we called the Mahashramdan Day, which was the 1st of May, when they could volunteer their time and come and work in villages. But our Jal Mitras have continued to be highly supportive, highly enthusiastic, and continue to want to work and contribute time in the villages. So Satya will tell you maybe a little bit about what they did through the lockdown even.
Yeah. So as Kiran mentioned, urban engagement has been a very important part of this entire process and journey, and something we've kind of consciously worked on. But now there's a global audience listening to this. And what I would like to share is that there are 1,000 things that every single person can contribute to in various ways. It can be knowledge, it can be expertise, it can be making markets accessible to our farmers. So if whoever the volunteer is, if they write into Pani Foundation at panifoundation.in, we would be absolutely delighted, and I would say grateful, to take the conversation further, so that each particular volunteer's specific expertise or strength can be harnessed in this process. So maybe I'll just put that onto the chat for everybody, the email ID.
Yeah. No, that'll be very useful. So, because I think what I find is that, in US, for example, the philanthropy is $400 billion effort every year. Close to $400 billion goes into philanthropy. But you have a lot of sorry. So you have very smart people. Doesn't matter whether it's MIT, Stanford, Harvard, or anything like that, who are working extremely hard, extremely compassionate, and they work on a lot of ideas, right? But then there is no capacity in the community for which they're developing all these ideas to absorb those ideas. So somehow we need to match the two sides, because people who have compassion and want to help, they don't quite have the reach. They don't have the ability to reach out and do anything. And the people who need the help don't have the access to all the different tools and everything else that they could be using if it was available. So I think what all of us are doing is trying to see if we can open up that channel a little bit more, so that the big money, big ideas, big technology can actually be real benefit to these people.
Sure.
So, Desh, if I may just add here, as far as technology is concerned, overall, my sense of it is that there is a crying need to harness technology for rural development. And I think we have not even, it's not even the tip of the iceberg right now, that we've seen.
Yeah.
I mean, just to give you an example of something as basic and simple as vermicompost. I'm deliberately going to the most humble unit, which is fertilizer made from earthworm castings. So what is the science of this? Which is the best earthworm to utilize? How can you enrich this? What is the microbial cultures which work well? When we actually get into it in detail, we discover that while some work has been done, it is way short of what requires to be done. So the rigor and the effort which is there in business enterprise, we have not yet harnessed for rural development. And if we were to do that, I think it would have a multiplier effect.
Yeah.
So, all kinds of support of this kind are welcome. University researchers, agricultural scientists, agronomists.
And also, convert them, because I see that as the sort of the big difference between the for-profit and the non-profit world. In the for-profit world, every entrepreneur starts with an idea, hoping that he can improve their life, do something better. But doesn't matter how crazy his idea is, within a couple of years, he has to come up with a solution for which somebody is willing to pay more than what it costs him, right? Otherwise, he goes bankrupt, he's dead, he's gone. In the non-profit world, because the beneficiary does not pay, somebody else pays for that intervention, you don't have the benefit of that feedback loop. So what happens is, India alone has 3.5 million NGOs. But I would say 99.9% of them are dysfunctional. Because you don't have the feedback loop to bankrupt things that don't work, or mergers and acquisitions and efficiency and everything else. So in some ways, if we can bring some of that, so what happens is, in the for-profit world, you got execution excellence, right? I mean, if you have a hotel, you serve bad masala dosa for 2 days, you're out of business. In the non-profit world, you do lousy work for 100 years, you're still okay, you survive, right? So you got execution excellence on one side, you have compassion on the other side. So I think we really need to bring compassion to the business world and execution excellence to the non-profit world. And I think if we can somehow find a good way to do that.
Very well said, Desh. And I think that for all of us, I just have to look at my child. When I look at my child, that makes me feel that, like him or her, there are so many children out there who are less privileged. And I feel that I want that there should be no child out there who faces the things that, we would like. So I'm saying to people that, if you just look at your child, you will want to do something. In a sense, if you look at your child, you'll want to do something. In fact, in our training, one of the games that we have in the training is exactly that. We fill a tub of water and we divide the trainees into 4 teams, and each team has got a grandfather, role playing of a grandfather. Some of the members of the team are fathers and some are grandchildren. And the 4 teams are told that first the grandfathers from each team will come to the center and they will be given a straw. And they have the competition is that you have to suck the water out with the help of the straw and collect it in a bottle.
Oh, I see.
Collects the most amount of water wins. And so the competition begins, and all the grandfathers of the 4 teams come in and they are pulling away at the water, sucking it, putting it in the bottles and collecting the water. When that time ends, the water of course goes down a little bit. We add a little more water to it, and the second generation comes in and plays. and each team is trying to do better than the other. And when the third generation comes in, the level has gone very low. And typically the trainers say, okay, let's start, come on, your time starts now. And they say, wait a minute, there's not enough water. Can you fill some water for us to pull, because we have no water left? And then the trainer doesn't say anything. And suddenly it sinks into all of them that this is exactly what we are doing. We are leaving no water for our grandchildren. And villagers, when it hits them, they go back after 4 days of training deciding that, see, what happens is that I may not work for the benefit of society, but if my children are going to suffer, I'm going to do it. I don't want my children to suffer. So it's very important. I feel if you just think of your child, you will realize that, this is the time we have to do what we have to do and try and make lives better for people who are less privileged than us.
Yeah. So Aamir, one of the questions that I see here showing up again and again, is that there are people who are saying, I live in a village, I'm trying to do different things, but huge obstacles. I can't get through them. So, lagam, dangal, all the stuff. How should people find strength to keep going?
Oh, that's a tough one. Well, if the question is more specific, maybe I'll be able to answer it better. But in general, if the question is how does one find strength, I don't think there's any one answer for that. When you're down, and there have been times when I've been down in the dumps, and I've been against my back against the wall, and I'm not quite sure how to get out of this. And at those times, I suppose the strength that I get is from what is important for me is not to lose hope. Because when you lose hope, then you lose all else. As long as there's hope, and so I think it's important, I guess, how do I handle situations like this? What do you think? I don't know how to answer this quite honestly, Desh, because I don't know where it's very easy for me to say it, because I'm hesitating to say it, because it's very easy for me to say it. I happen to be in a privileged position, but for a person who's not in a privileged position and who's got his back, back up against the wall, I suppose you have to find strength in love, and believe in.
What I've found in people who are good in dealing with those situations, I don't know how everybody can do it, but the characteristics of the people who do well in those situations, they seem to have two characteristics. One is they're naive, and they're very optimistic. Somehow they believe that every problem can be solved, and they also believe that tomorrow is going to be better than today. And that's the whole part of it. So, in some ways, whether it's real or not, that's a fantastic characteristic to develop, which the world teaches you not to do, right? They say, hey, don't be naive, you have to be very thoughtful, you have to know everything. But I find that being naive and being a little optimistic, even irrationally optimistic, is a great way to get through life, because if you live your life believing that tomorrow is going to be better than today, throughout your whole life, it doesn't matter whether it's real or not. I think you get through it pretty easy. So, I think I know we've taken a lot of time. So I want each one of you to leave some inspiring words for the people watching this.
Yeah, well, why don't you go for it? I love it.
I guess the only thing I can say is that I found that there is a lot of joy and a lot of satisfaction in working with people, in working with your community. For us, going out into the villages has been a huge learning experience. And I think what the villages of Maharashtra have taught us is that there's no problem that can't be solved if we work together. I think I take that away as a great inspiration for me in whatever I do, knowing that people who have so little have managed to come together and overcome such big problems. I feel I'm so much more privileged. It's a big inspiration for me in my life, and I hope it is for everyone, really.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Satya?
I actually echo what Kiran said. I think that that this whole process has been such a rich learning process, and actually the whole thrill of this is the learning journey. Is to be continuously nimble, to continuously engage one's mind, to continuously challenge everything that one knows, and to be continuously insecure. You know, I love what you said, Desh, about the feedback loop for profits. I think it's very important that we live with the same psychology, that we deserve to die, as in this movement or this effort deserves to die if it doesn't deliver. And I think that's something that we have, that is a motto that we try and live by, to live, to learn all the time, and to accept that if we are not learning, then we should be redundant. So that's something which has, I think, helped us a lot.
You know, I actually, I feel the same in many ways. I just feel that for me, this has been a huge learning experience and very enriching experience. And I don't know, at the end of the day, because I sometimes feel that, you know, if you look at the universe as the whole, we have very small, tiny specks. I mean, we're probably coming as lights and going. For us, it's 60, 70 years, but it's probably just a flash of light somewhere on and off. So sometimes I wonder what is the relevance of all this. But I feel that, you know, time is so different. I mean, the people's concept of time is so different from each other. So for me, I feel that the time that I have is just the now. This is the time that I have. And I'd like to use it doing things that make me happy. For me, it's a journey. I'm not sure I'll be successful. I'm not sure I'll reach my destination. Sometimes I'm not even sure what the destination is, quite frankly. I'm figuring out where to go. But the important thing is that I do it out of love. You know, there are some primary emotions that all of us have. You know, like when you're born, you're probably born with, I sometimes think about it, two primary emotions. One is fear. You come out into this world and you're scared of what is happening over here. You come out of your mother's womb with probably, I'm imagining, you know, fear and love, because that's the person who can look after you and nourish you. So love and fear are the two primary emotions probably that we experience first when we entered this world. We're born out of love. So I like to tap into the love part of my emotion as my primary emotion. And I like to use fear to propel me.
No. I mean, living in the present is everything, right? I mean, that's what all the philosophy.
And the rest of it is a journey. I'm learning. I'm hopefully also making. If I can bring a smile on someone's life, life, even that is good.
Yeah. No, I think I hope all the three of you will continue to do the super work that all of you are doing, and continue to inspire everybody. And we look forward to joining hands with you and seeing what we can do together. You know, I think the amount of compassion and the amount of interest in everybody trying to help these people out is huge. You know, the way I look at the world is that there's 7 billion people in the world, out of which 2 billion people have disposable income, 5 billion don't have disposable income. And the people who have disposable income, we have developed the whole ecosystem to look after them. I mean, they also have problems and we have to solve their problems, but the ecosystem is sort of set up to solve the problem. And solving the problem is what really drives the whole economy right now.
Yeah, but actually, I'm not quite sure I'm trying to solve the problem.
No. The 2 billion people.
I don't know whether I can. I don't know whether I'm capable of. What I'm doing is something that makes me happy. You know.
No. I mean, there's two types of people, right? There are people who are actually solving the problems, and there are people who are facilitating solving the problem. Like either you provide capital sometimes, you're, let's say, a Wall Street guy, you provide capital. Sometimes you provide inspiration. Sometimes you provide tools. Sometimes you provide technology. So there is ecosystem players who facilitate solving problems. And then there are people who are actually solving the problems on the ground, right? And that ecosystem is very well developed for the 2 billion people who have disposable income. The ecosystems to solve the problem for the other 5 billion people is not there yet. The ecosystem to solve the problems for the 2 billion people was not there 40 years ago when I was starting our companies and so on, right? 40 years later, we have that beat. We have a real good problem. COVID-19, no big deal. In 9 months, we can get a vaccine out, right? And over the next 10, 20, 30 years, if we can develop a similar ecosystem to solve the problems of the people, of those 5 billion people, where we develop a language, we develop all that stuff. I think that would be a good, sustainable transformation that we can bring to the world. So we all have a lot of work to do. Not that we understand how to get there, but you never know. You always start somewhere, and if you do get to some place, you can always tell a story as to how you knew how you were going to go there. But it's like Satya says, it's a learning process, and every day is exciting because we're all learning something new. And so thank you very much. Let's stay in touch. Yes. And I know thousands of people who are watching this show, I'm sure, are inspired, and will if they can just do a little bit more to reach beyond themselves and help other people, I think this would have been a good 1 hour spent with them. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Desh. It's been wonderful.
Thank you so much.
We're going to go off the broadcast, and then maybe we can just chat for a few minutes.
Okay.